Welcome to the Homeschool Show with NCHE. It is June 10th, 2024. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew E. Dill. We're so glad you joined us today. In homeschool news, I want to give you a little bit of information again about our 40th anniversary and how to get some more history and helps from us and our 40 years of experience. And also let you know how you can get some great Greenhouse magazine resources. In Homeschool Conversations, I'm going to show you the rest of my conversation with Susan Van Dyke, who is one of our homeschool pioneers in North Carolina, and she's going to tell us about the very beginnings, the beginning days of homeschooling in North Carolina. And then in Homeschool Helps with Amanda, she is going to talk about dual enrollment. What about it? How do you do it, and what are your options, and is it a good idea? Okay, going into homeschool news, we continue to wish NCHE happy 40th anniversary. Because we've been helping parents homeschool with confidence and joy for 40 years, you can trust us to help you on your homeschool journey. You can go to nche.com/40 years. And not only will you be able to see my conversation with Susan Van Dyke, which we're going to look at today, but many other pioneers that I've interviewed who talk about the early days and what it was like to homeschool. Just want to encourage you again how important it is to engage with history and to understand where we came from in this movement. And it really informs and inspires us to continue to fight for the freedom and friendliness in North Carolina to homeschool in the way that we have. So check out that history. Also, we have a lot of our best resources that we've developed over these years right there on that same page. So check out how we can help you in your homeschool journey. Also, I want to mention that we have a fantastic Greenhouse article available right now online. It is called Easy Summer Writing Ideas for the Family. So we're headed into summer, and we want to keep up with certain parts of our school if you're not going year-round anyway, and some ways to keep your writing up to date. Some really great ideas. This is by Dr. Janice Broyles, and you can go to nche.com/greenhouse and find that article, as well as many other fantastic articles that came out in our recent issue. We will have the link directly to that article, of course, in our show notes. Okay, now we're going to go into Homeschool Conversations and show you this talk I had with Susan Van Dyke. She was, again, one of the very early homeschoolers, and she's going to tell us all about her experience, and also, because she was so involved, a lot about how NCHE began in some of the very first legislative battles. So let's check this out.
You know, back when we were fighting the law, we would go down to the, this was in like 87, we would go down and sit in on committee meetings, and it was very interesting how little anybody in those committees knew about anything that they were doing. It was not a good thing. You know, it's like they're supposed to be making recommendations about this law. They didn't know what the law was now. They didn't really know much of anything, which really is a good thing to think about, that if you're interested in something, you better get down there and talk to somebody about it, because otherwise they probably don't know too much about it. But, you know, then we would come out and write letters, well, particularly after they proposed the law. You know, we would sit in the committee, we'd come home, we'd write a letter telling homeschoolers what's going on, you know, contact your legislators, mail it the next day, because that, you know, you just didn't have ways of getting information out. Now, if we had phone chains, you had to have a very short message, because obviously, if you're trying to send a phone chain, if you don't have a short message, it's going to get really messed up, you know. So if you wanted very much more information, you had to send out a letter. And so that's what we would do. We would write letters, send them out the next day, tell homeschoolers what's going on. And during that fight for the law, they said they had never had that many people interested in anything, coming down there, writing, calling, never, ever had that much contact from anybody about anything until that homeschool thing hit. So they knew we were around. And of course, I was talking about going down to the legislature. We did go down there and we went to the committee meetings. And one time we took roses to all the secretaries, because it's like, oh, they're the ones getting the worst of this. They get all the phone calls, they get all the people coming. And so, we dethorned all the roses because, if you're giving somebody roses, you don't want them to stick their finger. So we took all the roses and got all the thorns off of them and tied them up
Wow.
pretty, took them around to all the assistants there. So,
And how would you explain that phenomenon? Just that there was such willingness or commitment or passion from people to take action that way.
well, just that they saw the threat. I mean, the threat was they wanted us to be totally like the public schools. Well, there wouldn't be any point, of course, of homeschooling if you had to do everything, just like private schools. When they fought the private school law in 79, they just wanted the private schools to have to follow exactly everything the public schools are doing. Well, why would you go to a private school in
Hmm.
that case? And it's the same thing with homeschooling. If they're going to control everything, then why would you do it? And people saw the value. By that time, people were really seeing the value of being able to teach your children at home and particularly teach them your values. I mean, obvious, not everybody was a Christian, but a lot of Christians really were seeing, even back then, how the schools uh, were, not willing to have anything to do with God. I mean, even with my daughter in kindergarten, like I said, they wouldn't even read one story about the meaning of Christmas.
Hmm.
So in my mind, that was like telling these children, God has nothing to do with your life. You can go on and do everything that you're doing. You don't have to talk about him. You don't have to mention him. He has no relevance. Even though they're not using those words, that's what they're saying. We can do everything we're doing without acknowledging God in any way. Well, most Christians don't think that that's the way it should be. So the
Right.
fact that you could teach your children at home, and of course, obviously, the thing about having you could teach, like with my daughter, she's having trouble with math, but obviously, if you are better in one subject than the other, you can go faster in one subject, slower than the other. Um, People really very much wanted to be able to do homeschooling. They really did,
Yeah.
yeah. And they saw the problems, and they saw uh, we were really being attacked.
Hmm. So, do you remember some of the first conferences that there were? Do you have any particular memories of those?
I mean, we did them different places in the beginning until I don't really remember what year we started doing it in Winston-Salem. But the funny thing was, in the beginning, since homeschooling was relatively new, and there weren't all the people we have now who are all the experts on curriculum and this and that, and finding somebody to speak was not all that easy to find somebody that was really had expertise in homeschooling. I think homeschooling is so different now. I mean, in the early days, it was hard to even get curriculum. Some companies wouldn't sell you curriculum. I don't think Bob Jones would sell you curriculum unless like you bought the whole first grade or the whole, the teacher's materials, all the stuff. It was just totally different then because you really were pretty much on your own. Of course, anybody, if you think about children being in school all day long, who are they around? Just other kids.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest things that schools will advertise is if they have a low, student teacher ratio, that's a big deal. Like, we have small classes. Well, who has smaller classes than homeschoolers? I mean, they have the smallest ones. And, who's having the most influence? You're the parents, the people that are really care about them and want their very, very best. They're the ones that are around all day. And then when since you're homeschooling and you're not tied down to a classroom, You can go and do a lot of different things where they really are exposed to a lot of different types of people, a lot of different types of situation. So, of course, we all know this socialization thing was a big, uh, farce. That it's like, oh, they're not going to be socialized. It's like, oh, well, yeah, they're going to be around a whole lot more different types of people than anybody else. So
Yeah.
it's not a problem, you know. So I really encourage anybody who uh, can do it to do it. Of course, I am a Christian, and that's one of the biggest things of that. I believe children need to that needs to be part of their whole life as far as and part of their school. And even in Christian schools, you don't know exactly what's going on all the time, and um, but when you're teaching them at home, you can certainly talk about any subject that you need to, and share your thoughts and help them think about it. I mean, that's a huge part of what's important about homeschool.
Welcome to Homeschool Helps with Amanda. I'm Amanda Wares, Homeschool Helps Director with NCHE. So we're going to talk right now about dual enrollment. What about it? Pros, cons, tips? Let's see how much I can cram into these next few minutes because there's a lot. So first off, I want to talk about the dual enrollment program that is available through North Carolina's community colleges, and it is called Career and College Promise, the Career and College Promise Program, or CCP. Now, the Career and College Promise Program is available at every single one of our state's community colleges. And within that program, there are 2 tracks. So there is the college transfer pathway, and then there is the career and technical education pathway. Now, on the college transfer pathway, within that side of the program, there are several pathways. Sorry to use that word again, but there are several pathways to choose from. And you may choose a Associate of Arts transfer pathway, Associate of Science transfer pathway. Some schools have a nursing pathway, some have an engineering pathway. It depends on the specific community college, what they actually offer. So when you sign your child up for the CCP program, you will choose one of these pathways. There is really no hard and fast rule about which pathway you must choose. Truthfully, everyone I know and myself with my own kids, we chose the pathway that had the most classes that they wanted or needed to take. So if your child is going to be an engineer, but the classes that they need or want is located under the science pathway or the arts pathway, choose that. It does not matter what they're going to be going into after high school. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, once you choose the pathway, the student has to take those classes. They can only take classes within that pathway. And usually there's about 11, something like that. Once they finish, if they finish that pathway, then they will be free to choose any other classes at the community college towards getting their associate's degree. I will tell you that it's a lot to be able to finish the pathway, and it's even more to be able to go on and get the associate's degree. It happens. Many students do it, but it is a lot. So if that is your goal for your student, if that's your student's goal, be sure to plan carefully ahead of how you're going to fit all that into the semesters that you have available within the program. Within the CCP program, it is open to high school juniors and seniors. There are options for 9th and 10th graders, but they have to prove their ability to handle college coursework. So they have to have some testing, some test results and things like that to prove that they'll be able to handle that. But as far as the juniors and seniors, they get 6 semesters. So it's fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer. Okay. You don't have to take classes in all of those semesters, but you can. So that's something good to think about. Also, there is no age that you have to qualify for this. You just do have to have a transcript that shows that your student is a junior in high school, and they have to have a certain GPA on that transcript to be admitted into the CCP program. So then, if the college transfer pathway is not what you're looking for, then you may look at the career and technical pathway. And there are so many choices in all the different community colleges offer something a little bit different. So look at those. You do not, this is another point, you do not have to go to the community college that is in your county or even the one that's closest to you. If there's, you could even take classes at a couple of different community colleges. So if the one closest to you maybe has certain things that your student wants or needs, but another one further away might have something that they offer online that your student wants or needs, absolutely, that can be done. No big deal. You would sign up for the CCP program at both of those community colleges. Now, if they want to go into the career and technical education, there are so many: welding, HVAC, even things like IT fits under that. A lot of business classes fit under the career and technical education, early childhood education, culinary arts, EMT, so many options. Now, a student it is possible for them to take classes in both pathways. My son did this his senior year. He, for a lot of different reasons, needed to take less classes in that college pathway. And so he chose to get his 1-year welding certificate. So he was taking welding full time, like it was all day, every day. And he also was taking, I think he took 1 or 2 academic college transfer classes each semester of his senior year. So that can be done. There are some extra hoops to jump through, but it certainly can be done. Now, the other thing to note about the CCP program is it is tuition free. So you do not pay tuition for those classes. In some cases, you might also qualify to have the books and fees also paid for, but in general, people are responsible for the books that are required for whatever classes and the fees. Now, in our situation, we never paid more than $75 per semester for the fees. And the books, there's a lot of options out there to get used books, to rent textbooks. It does not have to be super duper expensive. So there's a lot of options out there. Just do your research, ask around, find some other families that maybe have participated in the program and ask them their experiences and how they did things. Also, you may want to ask different families, if there are several community colleges near you, what they thought about the different campuses. Sometimes one might be a better fit for your family or for your student than another one, depending on size and just how the general feel of it. Now, I could go on and on for a really long time about this, but this video is already pretty long, so I'm going to stop there. I will think about making another video about dual enrollment, and that will be about dual enrollment within the public school system and how that works and what is the deal with that. But that's a whole nother video. So I hope this helps today.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope that you will share this episode or this show with your friends, with your family, and people that you think this would help. Even people who are considering homeschooling and want to hear more about it. Share it with them. We'd love to hear from you. Any ideas or questions you have, you can email us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. And until next week, continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.